Hey guys, welcome back to my channel, Michi Makes Up. I'm really excited to be able to find some time to film today. And in this video, I want to talk about Tom Ford's new eye color quads. I picked up 2 of the 3 new launches. First I have here is Hazy Sensuality. And it's quite a cool color story, especially compared to the other 2 that were launched at the same time. And the second one I picked up is Golden Hour. I will do a side-by-side comparison and the swatches so you guys can see, but this is Golden Hour, a lot warmer. And then the warmest of the 3 color stories that were released is going to be Peach Dawn, which I didn't pick up because I think with the Chanel Eye and Figs palette that was launched earlier with a very coral, warm pink, and kind of that red undertone, I didn't feel like I needed another quad that was sort of similar, like in the same vein. So I just got these 2 instead, but I am looking forward to his summer releases. They have this, I guess, bronzy packaging, and I think there's going to be 2 eye color quads and then 2, maybe, is it bronzers or kind of like bronzers slash highlighters. I'll find pictures to share them here as I'm talking about this, but I'll also put up a picture of Peach Dawn as well. If you follow me on TikTok or Instagram, you would have already seen swatches last week of these 2 palettes, but now with this video, I want to get a little bit more in depth and create a look with them and also do swatches as well. At the end, like usual, I'll take whatever palettes I do have and do either cross-brand or same brand comparisons with other eyeshadow quads. I did downsize my Tom Ford collection quite a bit late last year and early this year to make room for new items, and as time allows, I hope to continue to make these detailed videos for you guys, as well as posting content on social media. So if you're not following me on TikTok and Instagram, I do have my handles below, which is Michi Makes Up, and I hope to see you guys there as well. So moving right into the swatches, I'm going to begin with Hazy Sensuality. And I did actually, beyond swatching, I did actually try them and wear them for the day. And the first thing that comes to mind when I think of Tom Ford is that the color stories are, you know, some of them, most of them are quite classic. We don't get a lot of that, you know, very super vibrant colors or color story, although in the past there's been kind of seasonal limited edition quads that, you know, were especially metallic and molten-like in texture, but those are few. Those are the minority. The majority are going to be something like this, which I think they're just as gorgeous, but they do, even though they're classic color stories, they do have a bit more punch to them. And so what I found when I created a look with both of these quads last week is that they just have more punch to them than compared to other luxury brand makeup. And notably, their eyeshadows don't fade, or they last much longer than I anticipate. It's always kind of a pleasant surprise. So you can see these 2 are, especially the 2 shades here, they have more pigment to them, more payoff. These are lighter in comparison. I would say this shade here is definitely more of a lid topper, although if you do have very light skin tone, I think that this one's easy to put all over the lid and then use some of these shades here to kind of play with dimension. And that is Hazy Sensuality. Now moving on to Golden Hour. Beautiful. You can see the coolness in Hazy versus Golden Hour. The reason I'm drawn to these 2 is that they're quite different from each other, and Peach Dawn might be a little bit too similar, at least in the photos, to Golden Hour, so that's why I gravitated towards these 2. I was also really excited about this golden shade. I have plenty of gold eyeshadow from, especially from my Pat McGrath collection, but I don't recall having many or any golds from Tom Ford. So I was excited about that. You can see Golden Hour, generally all four shades combined, more pigmented. What did surprise me, because going back to that kind of payoff and how it has good stain power, is that I made a look that was way deeper than I thought, and it immediately reminded me of Honeymoon. I'm going to start actually with, let's see here, probably the right side, and I'm going to use Hazy Sensuality to create a look. I will definitely be using all four shades. So let's begin with this pink shade here. I'm placing that all over the lids. And then I'm going to use a finger, go into this shade here. And as I'm doing this, I do want to mention that these quads are of the wet dry formula, so you can actually use a mixing medium or actually wet a brush and dip it in. What I do recommend, because these shadows are quite the investment, if it's hard to kind of get over the idea of, you know, putting water on these, you could also take a little spatula and take some product out, just a little bit, put it on, you know, a clean surface, and then mix it with your mixing medium or water as well. And that way you're not having moisture on the palette itself. So hopefully, you know, that gives you guys, those who are hesitating but curious, hopefully that's a nice alternative you can you can consider. And then I will go into this deeper shade here, and I don't want a really deep look, but I definitely want that dimension. So I'm actually just using the Sonia G, the soft definer, to really softly place the deeper shade here. And then again, using a finger, I'm just taking this really bright kind of lid topper shade and just placing it on the inner corner. And then using Sonia G's Builder brush, I'm taking this deep brown shade and putting that on the lower lash line. So this is Hazy Sensuality, and I decided to accentuate this pink shade. You don't have to. You can stick with the cooler shades and just use this as, you know, a small or a light accent on the center of the lid, or just in between, like the eyelid fold, for example. So I was interested in putting that pink front and center. Okay, moving on to Golden Hour. I'm going to take the deepest or most pigmented shade of Golden Hour and place that on the, just above the lash line, and moving towards the center of the lid. Taking this shade here, I am using it to diffuse what we already have on the lid, and then move that towards the crease. And then I just want to add some of this shade here because I also think this is beautiful. And I'm adding it right above the lash line. I don't think we'll be able to see it very well, actually. I'm going to go in with a finger. It's subtle, but you can see it added more shimmer, and I like that a lot, actually. When I'm blinking, you can see it. And then with that gold shade here, I'm actually happy with the way this look is turning out, but let's add some gold on the inner corner and move it slightly upwards here. And I'm taking Rephr brush number 3, very handy for that inner corner detailed work, and it has this, comes up to a dome, but it's pointed enough to do that detail kind of work. And I'm also bringing it all below. And let me add some mascara. We will come back for the rest of the look and those other comparisons. For blush, I'm going to try out something new I just received, and this is the Suku Melting Powder Blush. I've talked about these blushes a lot recently because they're being discontinued. They're still being stocked up until the end of the year, but because of that, I went and picked up a few more. So what I have here is actually a limited edition from, I think, the spring collection this year, or pre-spring collection. 103 Nadeshiko Zome. And I feel like it really matches the pink and kind of coral color story I have on both eyes. So going in with Rephr's 05 brush. I love just, oh, that's beautiful. I love the shade. I love the shade. If I did not already have a lot of blushes, I might run out and get a spare of this one. Wow. You know, I already have in the melting color or melting powder formula another, can't see this very well, hold on here, there we go. Another pink blush, but it's so different now that it's been applied here, and actually this is my first time going into it. I haven't even swatched it yet. It just looks like a bit of a coral pink, and I just love how everything's kind of coming together. And to pair this off, I'm going to also go into a pink lipstick. This is Sicily's Lafito Rouge in the shade 22. I forget the name. They're all named after cities, but Lafito Rouge, one of my favorite satin lipsticks. So here is the finished look using Hazy Sensuality on the right eye and Golden Hour on the left. I purposely wanted to go with a bright pink, very pigmented lipstick because I wanted to show you you can have a cool pink or something that's much warmer and even coral leaning, but still it can be paired with something that's really bright, right in line with a summer look. But I could have gone with something more neutral, a neutral pink lipstick, or just something that's a little bit more subdued, and it would still, I think it would still turn out well. So very versatile here. Again, just classic color stories. If I had to pick one of the two quads, if I were only to keep one, it's going to be Golden Hour. I actually don't have anything in my collection quite like this. I think there's a palette from Natasha Denona where there's a shade or two that could be similar, so I'll definitely take a look at that, and if there's anything there, I'll show it to you guys. But overall, this combination here, and being that this is wet dry formula, I can make it more intense. This is the standout in my opinion. You guys have told me that you really enjoy all of the color stories, and I believe you, but if I had to just pick one, Golden Hour would be it. I took out a number of Natasha Denona palettes because it turns out that she has quite a bit of those, you know, salmon, coral, pink shades, and the one that really, there really might be something here. It's a completely different finish, but I think the shade is worth taking a look at, is from something more recent, her Retro Glam palette in the shade Belle. Completely different finish, but I feel like it can be the same family of shades. It's not the same. I think this is even cooler, but you can see they might mix well together, like a cool and a warm contrast. And then also from Natasha Denona is going to be her mini retro palette, just like a fan and cult favorite. This shade here reminds me of Golden Hour. I think this is going to be pinker and a little bit brighter, but can really complement these shades beautifully. And looking at it like this, and it has some similarities. This one has less undertone than this metallic shade, but I think they can be cousins, sisters maybe. And then I did also, I'm probably not going to swatch anything from here, but from her mini Biba palette. This one was a bit disappointing, although still beautiful. It's not really like her meaty, or is it meaty? Meaty Biba palette. That one is also a fan favorite. So this one doesn't quite live up to that original hype. I'm not going to swatch the shade because I don't really think it's that similar. Okay, let's move on here. Now, as I was going through my vanity, the Small Beauty palette, which is a collaboration with Beautylish, I think this shade, there might be something there. Maybe a little bit deeper. It is deeper, a bit more red leaning. Definitely channeling this though. Definitely very similar to this shade here. And then for the Glam palette, Classic Color Story, I think there's some pinks that I can compare to, because this pink here almost looks, because it's so cool, it almost looks a bit purple, like there's a bit of a purple undertone to it. And I feel like, oh, I can easily find this, but as I was looking through my collection, I don't know that I quite have this pink. Maybe from another ND palette, but speaking of ND, we're moving back to Natasha Denona. Her Glam palette, those two cool lighter, you know, the lid topper and the lighter metallic shade really reminds me of something like this from her palette. So I'll go ahead and swatch that. Much more pigmented. Yeah. Much more pigmented and intense than the two up here. And for good measure, I'm going to take out her Natasha Denona's Lila palette just to see if there's some similarities that I can find to match or compare with that pink. Well, as I thought, I might not actually have a pink that is similar. This is the one that comes to mind, but I don't see anything. And I don't know that I have anything in my collection actually quite like this. So because I have the palette out, I'm going to swatch it anyway. This is my favorite Natasha Denona palette. I think maybe it got bumped down one spot, but this is my first Natasha Denona palette, and I love purples, mauves, and plums. And this palette has so much of it, just so much of it, and variations of it. So beautiful. And it's one of her claim to fame palettes. I'm going to swatch this shade here, my favorite shade from the palette, and it's called Helio. Yeah. It definitely has vibes of Golden Hour, but much, much more intense, more pigmented, has a lot of base to it. But I can see this is like the Plum Sister, and these are more pink and actually coral in comparison. But yeah, I feel like they can kind of all exist in the same pool. I do want to note, going into Lila palette, one of her earlier ones, just how intense this metallic swatch is. And we've heard comments how in recent years not all of her palettes have that same quality, and even if you were to go earlier beyond, even before the Lila palette, I think was it the Star palettes, the really big Natasha Denona palettes, and people feel a certain way about them, and they feel like that was the standard, that was the quality, her claim to fame, and things have changed. So it'll be interesting to see where the brand goes in terms of creativity and, you know, the quality of the eyeshadows. But moving back into Tom Ford, I do like both of these quads. Very pleasantly surprised that there's really nothing in my collection quite like this, quite this cool, with this mashup, or beautiful pairing, I should say, of shades. So I really enjoyed this. And then, of course, you guys know I really do love Golden Hour, and I would recommend this over Hazy Sensuality, actually. So this is my favorite of the two, and possibly maybe a favorite eyeshadow of 2023. So we'll see. Thank you guys for watching. I miss you, and again, hope that as time goes on, or as the year goes on, I can continue to find time and sit here, talk to you guys about makeup. See you soon. Bye.